Hello, hello. To the iPad. Connect. There we go. Okay, into the stream. Hello, hello. Back streaming for the day. I don't know if anyone's in yet. Hello, if anyone's there. You can see you've got a slug on the screen. Today is a sluggy kind of day. Actually got some references to help me draw today. It should be a good one. I'm going to be doing some WyrdFolk today. So we're going to have a few different images on the go. Got lots of sketches ready. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get lots done. We'll see. See how far we get. We'll start off with this little guy here. Little slug fay. Hello Zakro. How's it going, mate? Thanks for joining the stream. I'm going to be working on this slug guy here for today. How's your week been? Been busy? I think I've not made as much progress as I wanted this week in terms of content, but lots of sketches at least. Always keeps me moving forward. Do his eye here so it's a bit more visible. So we're doing a bit of a little slug guy here. Yeah, we're going to give him a little hand as well. The idea is we'll be doing mostly WyrdFolk today. Well, might mix it up a bit later, but I'm going to. I've got a bunch of sketches to go through. And try and get lots and lots done by the end of the stream. So start off with these the slimy boy, and then hopefully go draw a shark, maybe a wolf fay. What was the other one? And then like an ant farmer fay as well. So like I said, lots prepared. We'll see how we do a bit later on. I'm working on another drawing, but this time I'm trying to use colour. You're braver than me. I think I was well, mostly do a bit black and white, I think. Yeah, it's good you're forcing yourself to use some colour. I think it's like one of the best things to do is just get yourself to use it, and it just, whether it's good or bad, it's good practice. For sure. That's my mentality. What are you working on exactly? I'll draw this guy's body first. And then I'm going to draw his equipment over the top. Yeah, looking quite sluggy already. So I'll get rid of this background. So I've got some, I'm going to do like some pack mule stuff essentially on his back. He's going to have a kind of harness attached to him. And a little hood that's kind of rolled up that he can kind of use if it rains a bit too much. I'm trying to do more logical drawings for the future, so there'll be more technical stuff like, okay, we've got this kind of sentient slug, so how does he move around? How does he hold his stuff? How does he stop himself from drying out, especially if he's really big? He's gonna be about 6 foot long, so he's gonna be a really big boy. So we need to kind of make sure all of this is being covered. Do those ropes again. Not very good. More serpentine creature. Nice. Rondix, good evening, you lovely creatures. Hey mate, thanks for joining us. How have you been? Been up to anything this week? Thanks for jumping in. Just working on a slug fey for the WyrdFolk video that I'm hoping we'll be doing soon. Doesn't really look much like a slug at the moment, but hopefully once he's got all of his equipment on, like a very organized slug. In fact, I might move this equipment back like this so we can see his face a bit clearer. Like that. Let's redraw this barrel face. Okay, so this barrel essentially is going to be his moisturization kit. I might have him like attended by someone, so I imagine it would be quite difficult to be a little slug dude. There's a little hood here. Cherry is a wonk. Hello, I really like your art style, it's really cool. Thank you. Thank you for joining the stream. Good to have you here. Yeah, we're just working on a slug today for the time being, but might jump into some other styles. We've got a few people here now, so I'll show you what I've been working on this week. Not much. The main ones I started this week was this crab picture. It's a bit of a silly one, but it's a little crab fey dude. He's being bullied by some local humans. He is just trying to live his life. He's got his little hat. He's got his little pre-tech arm. But yeah, the local humans are being jerks and bullying him, picking him up in the street because he's going to be quite slow. He's a big heavy crab. So a lot of the video is going to be about how weird folk live and kind of suffer in society. I worked on this one a little bit as well. So this is actually a drone. So like a pre-tech, basically like robot that's still alive or is like awoken. But it's also considered weird folk because obviously people would be very suspicious of a pre-tech, like a moving statue essentially. So he's wearing lots of clothes, he's got lots of equipment, he hides his face and pretends essentially he's got a pre-tech mask on, when in fact that's just his head. But he covers his hands and everything so that people can't see that he's actually essentially a robot. I started working on this one. The house is not very good, but I'm quite like the rest of the drawings so far. I've got a lot to work on with this one, but essentially it's some guys going to visit a ranger in the woods, and the ranger lives on top of a war sentinel head, a war titan, and uses the power from the titan to power his house, essentially. So he's going to be obviously knowledgeable in the area, and perhaps they're going to see him to get some advice about maybe ranging. This is one of the sketches I want to work on today. A little shark housemaid. Another aspect of the weird folk is that they like to live in the maybe in houses, work as servants behind closed doors because they can get jobs there because nobody really sees them. So this kind of fae is like I said, a shark, but I would say most fae are fish or like weird creatures, but this one in particular is just because sharks are a bit scary, so they're also kind of considered weird folk because they're basically like rejected from society. Throdix didn't do much this week, but getting a well-deserved rest. Good for you, mate. We all deserve a rest from time to time. You should definitely take advantage of it, for sure. Cherry is a wonk. So is this for a campaign? Also, I love the creativity of these. Love your art. Thank you. We appreciate that. So I am slowly working on a TTRPG. It's very slowly. I've got the main ideas for it, but I'm hoping to be developing it into the next year. I'm really gonna focus on the art for the time being, but eventually I will move into like more, you know, a more set out book, and hopefully get some stuff done for that. But for the time being, I'm just gonna try and do a big catalogue of all of my ideas on my YouTube page. If you haven't seen it yet, Cherry is a Wonk, I'm on YouTube, so a lot of the lore for this world is on there, so you can check out. But yeah, that's the main idea so far. LaserCrow, I have also, if you hear me speaking Cherry's Wonk, I'm also streaming on YouTube, so I'm kind of answering questions on there at the same time. I have a question about all the Fae folk developing hands, or only a few species developing hands. Great question. So, one of the like main definitions of Fae in this world is they have to be bipedal. They have to be able to communicate with each other or with humans. They have to be sentient. And then there's other aspects as well. Generally, they have hands as well and arms. So as you can see, you know, I've got a good example here. The shark maid has some little hands. So I'm kind of doing some artistic license here. You know, I'm kind of exaggerating the scientific element of these guys, like kind of developing sentience, but just makes it so it's, you know, it's possible for them to do stuff. So like this guy, he doesn't really have any arms, but he's installed a pre-tech arm onto himself, but he does have a little hat. And then the slug, I'm going to develop this drawing a little bit more now, and we'll see. We'll see if I can figure out if I want to get an arm in there or not. Not sure. We'll see. I might do it as a... In fact, I might do him as a mount. So I feel like a slug Fae would just be robbed very quickly, or just not be able to do much. So I'm just going to do him as like a little mount that someone else is riding on. What could I do? I don't know if anyone wants to give me an idea. If anyone wants to shout out some particular animals, and maybe we will use that as the rider for this slug. If you guys want to make some suggestions, I'll consider them. Yeah, like I said, I was originally going to do this as a Fae who's kind of just living his life and slugging about, but yeah, I think I'll have to... I'm not sure it's going to work logistically for that, so we'll see. Cherry's a wonk, yeah, I figured. Yeah, I found streaming on both platforms seems like a good idea, because I can use a lot of the streaming elements from Discord with OBS, and then I seem to get quite a bit more views on YouTube, so it's worth streaming on both for sure. Right, let's just paint this up. There we go. I'm just blocking this out so I've got a nice bold colour, so I can see if I've got all the bits. I'll just change this to white afterwards. There we go. Lazy Crow, a mushroom fae or a weevil fae? Weevil fae. So I haven't really. I think we've talked about it in a few of the streams, but I haven't drawn any like non-animal fae. So mushrooms or like rocks or trees. I might consider it in the future. I'm gonna stay grounded for the time being and just have boring old animal fae. But I think I will consider it in the future for sure. Maybe Because that would be quite cool. So not a mushroom fey for now. Sorry to disappoint. But a weevil's not a bad idea. Let me look at what a weevil looks like. Weevil. UK. I'm trying to stick to like animals. Oh, they're cute. Yeah, why not? They're like little moon bugs. Yeah, it's a great idea. Okay, I'll do a weevil. Let's have a look. Let's add this to my reference sheet. Do a few little pictures, and then I'll start drawing one in. Yeah, I really haven't done that many like insect fey for the time being, but I definitely want to do some more bees and things like that. Throndix got it to work. I'm trying to work on my YouTube banner, but I'm stuck with using Ibis Paint, and my network connection isn't strong enough, so I can't get the brush I want. That's so frustrating. Yeah, it's difficult trying to find the good brushes, because I think they do make a difference for sure. But yeah, I think I've spent a lot of time like working between all of the YouTube banner and like the one for Discord, one for Patreon, and all these other ones. I think it's definitely interesting to make sure it's like to make it a bit unique and quite interesting. So definitely worth putting some time into it for sure. There's a little barrel there. I'll start doing this little weevil dude. Let's draw him on top. I need some pictures of someone riding donkey. Get a good angle. The little dude. Oh, he's cool. Okay, I've got a good reference. I need to figure out how to share my reference page because I'm using PureRef. So when I figure that out, you guys will be able to see what I'm also drawing. Never mind, I got it to work. Nice, good job. Have you set up your YouTube already, Throndix, or are you just are you still preparing it and getting it set up for the time being? So what I'll do is I'll draw a little basic skeleton. This guy. Maybe we can have a little sticking carrot type thing. Do like little cabbage, because slugs in my garden eat all my cabbages, so they definitely like those. Cherry Zawonk, do you draw as well? Do you do any art yourself? So it's cool to see other people's art and their styles. I'll get this. Looking kind of cabbagey. So draw this little skeleton. Do it so his arms are resting, so he's not getting too tired. Maybe I'll do that as part of the chair. And then, of course, he needs a little hat. Maybe we'll give him like his slug like a big caravan full of supplies. Daniel Lopez, thanks for joining us, mate. I'm finally able to catch a stream again. Yippee! Yeah, you came in just in time. Just started. And we're currently working on a little slug. This weevil is driving. Maybe taking him to market or something. Oops, I'm in the wrong one. This one. So just working on that for the time being. Oops. Got a few other little things we want to get done today. We'll see if we've got time. But I'm liking this so far. What we're going to do is like a little weevil rider. So he's going to be a little chunky dude. So we've got kind of funny faces. It's kind of big. And he's got like a big neck thing. And he's got a big body. And they got like weird gangly arms, but we'll just give him little arms. And maybe... Oh, that's okay so far. Big gangly dude. And then draw his face as well. It's big and big hat. Got a little nose antenna. It doesn't really go there. More here. I'm in the process of getting it up, to be honest. Nice. Once it's up, make sure to post it in the Discord. There's still not that many people in there at the moment, but it might mean that you get like a few subscribers at the start. I think all the guys there are super supportive, so for sure, post it in there, and I'm sure everybody will be more than happy to jump on and check out your stuff. Got the PFP done. I'm going to work on the PNG tuber-ish avatar of the Banda. I don't know if you know it yet, but the one I'm using is WyrdFolk Mini. Another streamer told me about it, and it's really, really good. I find it very useful. Daniel Lopez. Oh, Slug Rider's cool. Yeah, he's a little merchant. He'll be a little funky dude, and he's going to be. I didn't plan on doing a weevil. But who suggested it? Lazy Crow suggested it. I think it's a very good choice because they're a very funky looking bug. So I think he's gonna look quite cool. I have to give him cool costume as well, of course. Some nice big sleeves maybe. But we'll figure it out as we go along. Daniel Lopez, are you working on anything at the moment? You got any projects on the go, or are you on holiday? What have you been up to? I find, hoping the summers will be pretty chill in the future. Because I don't have much work at the moment, but other things means not been drawing much. Not as much as I want. Kind of my own fault, I guess, but it's good to do this every week. I enjoy just having this 2 hours of just getting a bunch of drawing done, and then it's very satisfying to just having that at the end of the week. Even if it's just this I get done, I think it's great. It just means because it's quite a lot of work, 2 hours of just pure drawing, especially when I'm getting input from you guys and just. I think the questions I get are often really interesting, and it helps me to stay informed and to really consider some of the design choices, which is nice. I have a little thingy holder here, little weevil feet, maybe some little stirrups. Keep his feet in. There's my little donkey rider. Okay, so it's just got some little stirrups like that. He's a cool little dude, isn't he? I need to find some images of... Okay. Some little type of equipment I might be carrying. So maybe just some large sacks of maybe grain or fruit or fabrics. He needs his roll pack as well, for his sleeping bag. Because weevils need a sleeping bag too. In fact, what I'll do is I'll attach that to his seat. Just here. The cinnamon roll. There we go. Shade it a little bit. There we go. Nice. In fact, let me copy this image. Like I said, I'm looking at some references in PureRef. I need to find a way to share this at some point. I'm not very good with OBS at the moment, but I'll figure it out eventually. In the supplies, could there be pumpkin-size acorns? That is a very cool idea. I really like that. Absolutely, there could be. So you could have like a bag full of like really big seeds or something like that from like a big acorn tree. The thing is, so this image needs to look obviously like he's human-sized. So the problem is if he's like a weevil riding a slug and he's got acorns in a bag, that just looks like he's a really tiny dude. So what I might do actually is just... He's got a cabbage. What could be a good reference point to show that he's not a tiny dude? Daniel Lopez, a spider fae folk tribe whose whole culture and way of communication revolves around silk. Could be a cool thing. Thought about it after seeing the little funky dude riding the slug. That's a cool idea, yeah. Like a society that's built around producing and trading silk. Oh, that is cool. The thing is, because you have like silkworms, right? But that's more of like a Asian thing. So I was thinking about this exact thing, but with like a hive of bees, and they obviously like produce honey or something. There's also be one with a group of ants. In fact, I'll show you a picture I was doing. Let me create it because I was supposed to be working on this today actually before I changed the slug rider idea. So let me add the image. So one of the ones I wanted to do a while ago was this one. So if you ignore the human there, in fact, if we just erase him. So essentially, this was supposed to be a little farmer ant. This guy, he's a little ant dog. A soldier ant who's protecting him, and then an aphid cow. And this is a real thing in the UK. Not the ant dogs, but you have the worker ants and the soldier ants. Or maybe they're the same thing in the UK, I'm not sure. But you do have aphid cows. And they protect the aphids from ladybirds. And then they drink the honeydew from the aphids. And they bring that back to the hive. So I thought it would be like a farming society that's ants. But based on like a real aspect of what like ants do in real life in the UK, because again all of this is kind of based on British animals. So although I think like a spider web thing would be quite cool, I feel like that would be something that perhaps could be like a trade import, like silk from giant silkworms and from abroad. Definitely a cool idea. I think I'll have to consider something like that. But like societies built around taking advantage of these like giant plants and animals, I think, is an awesome idea. For sure. Got a very comfy seat. And to do this little fishing rod. This little cabbage. And then just blank that out. Right, if we do that. And then let's bring all this back in. If we start to colour this guy a little bit, it'll make it a bit easier to see what he looks like. Slugs are kind of, in the UK, you get this like kind of golden, slimy orange colour. I think they're called banana slugs, and I don't know if it's because of the colour or because of the size of them. They do get pretty big. And I've got a hole somewhere in my kitchen. I think under my kitchen sink or something, like a really tiny hole. And every night when I go downstairs to let my dog out, I find at least 2 or 3 slugs in my kitchen, which is what inspired me to start drawing this picture. Because these cheeky little slugs keep coming into my house. And I don't hate slugs. I don't kill them. I just bring them outside. But I don't want them looking around, licking stuff in my kitchen at night time. I know I'm deep into myrmecology, and it's a cool idea. It could be related to the ant dragon idea you told us about not too long ago. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, well, first of all, what do you mean by myrmecology? I'm not sure. I've not heard of that before. But yeah, essentially that's what it was going to be. So when I was thinking about doing the TTRPG, I was thinking about doing this as like a module. Like an expansion module where you have to go and help like a blight in an ant village, and essentially these ants are like the aphids are getting sick or something, and you get hired by a queen ant, and the queen ant is this like massive fat bulbous ant with like a really long tail full of eggs, and she controls a colony of these giant ant and these ant fae. So it was going to be about intrigue related to that, but I might still do it, but yeah, I think that would be definitely a cool way to like kind of talk about it, is like to have the cultural element of it, the trade that they deal in, and all those kind of things. Throndix, oh no, that sounds so annoying. Honestly, it is a little bit annoying. I would say last year it was ants, and I really hate ants. You know, talking about how we're talking about ants at the moment, but I really hate ants in my kitchen, and I had loads of them last year, and it was really difficult to deal with them. And then in my shed, I've got mice, and to be honest, slugs, when considering both of those things, I think are not the worst thing in the world. They could be worse, so I can't complain too much. And slugs are kind of funny, so I don't mind them. Don't mind them so much. I prefer them not to be in my house, if I'm honest, but c'est la vie. I don't hate slugs, I simply despise them. They're funny, especially if you're a gardener. They're very frustrating, because obviously they just eat all your stuff. But, yeah, I would say for now, just a bit of annoyance, more than anything. Cabbage. Myrmecology is the study of ants. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I could see that being like a really interesting thing to research, like following how they kind of develop, like their societies and everything. Because I can imagine. In fact, I remember talking to you about this on a previous stream. I think, Daniel. I could see them being like a super interesting society, and like the kind of way they interact with each other and other creatures could be super, super interesting for sure. The only thing I hate are cockroaches and fly maggots. I'm pretty chill with everything else. Fly maggots. Yeah, I know what you mean. They're pretty gross. Cockroaches. I don't like cockroaches. We don't really get them in the UK. I think we get like some really small species, so it's not too bad. But from what I understand, they've got a bit of a bad rep. They're, you know, the cleanup crew of a lot of ecosystems. So, you know, they don't exist unless there's already a mess somewhere. And so they're just part of the ecosystem, I guess. I'd obviously prefer to not to have them in my house. It's probably the same reason I have slugs, just damp in my house and a bit of a mess under my sink. But yeah, I completely understand what you mean. I think just having them scuttering about is just really gross. Really gross. I am going to get to this acorn. I'm just kind of getting a feel for the image. Just developing it a little bit. There's my pack mule. Give him a bit of a colourful little tarp that he wears. A bit of a turquoise colour. Might do it as like a tartan or something. I don't think pack mules in 17th century Scotland used tartan cloaks, at least. I only hate city roaches. I'm fine with regular roaches. The Madagascar roaches, they're cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's true. So it's like, yeah, roaches in the sewer. Well, there's like big colonies of them are bloody horrible. But yeah, like the big ones in the jungle, which are huge, like the huge fat ones that a lot of people have as pets. I agree. They're cool. Maybe more like orangey color. Will kind of blend in a bit better with everything else. I might start. So I want to do a bunch of gear that this guy has. I've been watching a YouTuber. If you guys aren't following, let me find his name. There's a really awesome YouTuber I love. His name is Nubmark. I'll put a link onto his page. I've been binging his stuff at the moment. This guy. So follow this guy if you want. He's a really good world building channel. But essentially he does like a lot of he's built this world, and he has these like 3 or 4 different cultures within the world. But he does these really awesome character images, and he has like voice actors, and he has all these other people who are, you know, involved in his videos, and they're really high quality, and he's an amazing artist. And he does a bunch of like videos from like his house and from in like nature and things like that. So he puts a lot of effort into all of his videos. So he's definitely worth following. Anyway, he's kind of inspired me because a lot of his images are super detailed, and all the characters have some like really cool aspects to them. So I'm gonna try and do some more character stuff like he does, because I really appreciate like the level of quality of his videos, I think. What I really hate, however, is drawing water in waves, and of course I decided to draw a rabbit drinking from a lake. Man, honestly, I think that's the best way to do it. It's like forcing yourself to draw stuff that you think you're bad at, and then you just sort of get good at it. I'm rubbish at landscapes, so you probably noticed in a bunch of my recent videos, I've been doing a lot of landscapes, because I want to kind of improve in that. I don't like this orange color. It's a bit too... It's supposed to be a bit of like a cavalry rider colour. Let me do it a bit like that. That's not very nice either. So yeah, I've been doing a lot more landscapes for that exact reason. And I think, you know, I will improve eventually, but I think the best way to improve is just to, you know, kind of force yourself to do it. It's a bit too close to his face colour. Do it as a bit of a green, it stands out a bit more, I guess. There you go, and all kinds of blends in together. What I might do is I might just do a big filter over the top. And do it as like soft light, so they have like a similar blended colour. So the tone kind of goes together. But I'll figure that out at the end. Daniel Lopez, I was once taking a shower and a roach crawled out of the draining. I didn't notice until it started crawling up my leg and I stopped. That's horrible. Oh, yeah. I used to live in East Asia, and you'd have to deal with cockroaches a lot, and again, and big ants as well. And yeah, whenever it rained and it was like super heavy rain, and the drains would get blocked, you just have like roaches and rats and all these horrible creatures like everywhere, because obviously, like you said, they were just escaping the water. They didn't want to drown. Unfortunately, they were escaping the water over the top of me. No thank you, little beasts. Question: would there be a quest from the ants asking anyone to exterminate zombie ant fungus? Cool idea. Acceleration, cordyceps go brr. Yeah, that's more or less the reason I made the decision, but yeah, painful. Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that was going to be the thing. It was going to be something like that. Because I think I got the idea when we discussed this previously about the cordyceps, and I thought that could be a really cool, like mission to be sent on to defeat these like these zombie ants, or like to stop them from spreading into the colony. And maybe there would be like some compromised like lieutenant ants you'd have to assassinate or to get rid of, and you'd have to convince the queen to allow you to get rid of some of these ants. Or that's the idea. What I might eventually do is just do it so it's like a open book system. I can't remember what they're called. Where it's like, it's not like I don't write like a whole system, but it's something that can be adapted to like D&D or Pathfinder or Mothership or something. Because I don't know a lot about TTRPG creation. I have a lot of ideas for it, but I feel like it would be better if it was like in the hands of someone else. And it was like a book like Dinotopia, where people can use that to adapt into their own world. And I don't know if that's just me being lazy, but I don't know. I feel like it's... I'll see. You know, I've got a bunch of notes, and I did a bunch of work on this TTRPG, but I don't want it to be something that I just do, and it's not good. Obviously, I want it to be like good quality, so that's the main thing. That's my main concern, really, is that it needs to be good, for sure. Let me keep that locked on. Onto the colour here. There we go. That's better. So yes, yeah, that was the idea. It's like something along those lines. Those exact lines, in fact, just to like yeah, getting rid of blight that turns out to be like a fungal infection. But we'll see. Yeah. Something I think would be interesting is how the acceleration world deals with invasive species. All creatures have a few at this point, and it would be interesting to know how they adapted here. Cool. Yeah. That's a cool idea, yeah. Because a good example of a really bad invasive species in the UK is the American mink. And I don't know, I was Googling some images of them just whilst drawing like weasels. And it's like images of them taking out herons or swans or like these huge animals. So obviously they're like really bad for the environment. So yeah, I think something like that could be quite cool, and you could have like a a fae with who's like got kind of an accent because he's an invasive species, so he's from like he's not from around here. So you could kind of play on it a little bit. But yeah, absolutely, that's a cool idea. Someone else said to me, maybe it was one of you guys, but someone said to me in one of the previous streams about like migratory birds, and let's change this guy's trouser color. Like a little grey. Very clear that these are his shoes. Someone mentioned to me about migratory birds, and I thought that was a really cool idea. Like animals that are seasonal, or yeah, animals that come over at certain periods, and how they would have to deal with it. So maybe they would migrate by just traveling between these different countries as like traders or something. And so you'd have these guys who are like maybe like flying across, or they're getting transported somehow by different means. Something along those lines could be cool. All right, this is looking quite good so far. I'm going to start colouring in these black lines. Looking like a cool little dude. Like his slug. I'm going to do shadows in a minute, but I'm liking him so far. I need to... you know, there's so many awesome species in the UK that I really want to focus on them for the time being. I think I will get around to like invasive species and other things like that. And like, you know, some, I think we discussed it in a previous stream as well, where like some animals are invasive species. They're like rabbits or pheasants or some of these other ones. Not invasive, but perhaps introduced to the UK. So I need to think about things like that, because definitely it would definitely be an important part of the acceleration. It's just all of these different animals. But yeah, definitely something I need to consider a bit more for sure. He's looking pretty cool. I'm going to do more bags. I'm just trying to get a bit of a feel for him at the moment. It could also be a good way to introduce species in the story that aren't usually found in the UK, like an exotic animal that was someone's pet before the acceleration happened and it got turned into it. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, like pets that have remained, a fae or a dragon. Yeah. I don't know if you were there, Daniel, or Throndix or Lazy Crow, but one of the things I think I mentioned previously was, what was it? Oh, I've just slipped my mind. About no, okay, it'll come back to me. I was thinking of something in particular, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, that was it. So sorry, yeah, like a traveling circus. So like a traveling circus with like a bunch of different species in it, and it'd be a cool way to be like, okay, you know, stuff outside of the Albion Isles exists. So it is present in the world, but it's just, okay, here, this is like a snippet of what it is like available out there. So yeah, definitely something to consider, something along those lines where it's like more animals, and again, some like indications of what could be outside. So I think that's it definitely be like a cool way to show it, to show that there's other stuff about the place. And what were we saying? We were saying a giant acorn, weren't we? In the UK, we don't really eat acorns. What do we eat? We eat maybe like giant chestnuts. Chestnuts aren't so visually interesting. Let's have a look. Edible nuts in the UK. Chestnuts, walnuts, pecan, almonds, hazelnuts, cashews. It needs to be like very easily recognizable. Acorn would be quite easy to recognize. Let's do an acorn. Why not? Acorns are easy to see. Maybe they could be used for other purposes as well. Sure. I think it's a cool idea, so we'll add it in. Cool ideas are always welcome. So if any of you guys have any cool ideas, let me know. I'm going to do one giant acorn. Let's bring it with him. But again, the main thing is I need a reference that he is not a tiny boy, because it needs to be obvious that he's like a normal size fae. He's not just like a tiny little sentient bug riding a tiny little slug. So I need to figure out a way to make it obvious that he's not so tiny. Let's color this in. I've got this kind of woody, it's like red color. It's good. Do the same here. Like a darker brown at the top. And then we can do some highlight bits. I'll do the highlights after, so we know that's an acorn now. In fact, we do like kind of a pale top of that. That's cool. And if we do some ropes, so we know it's tied down. Oops, too big. It can be like an extension of these ropes. That's quite cool. Where I'm from, we eat the seeds from the pine cones. We call them piñones. Oh, I can never pronounce the little wiggle. Piñones. They taste and they are tasty, and we use them in some seasonal products. Interesting. Yeah, I remember. That'd be very cool indeed. Yeah, nice. Do you know? So a typical thing in France is actually Throntix. I think you're from France. A typical thing that my French wife loves is chestnuts, like roasted chestnuts, and we'd go in autumn to collect them from like chestnut trees. Like that was obviously like fallen down. The seeds have like fallen down onto the floor, and then you like roast them. We like boil them and then roast them or something like that. I don't know. I don't like them. But the French people love them, and they're like you always see them at like Christmas time or autumn time. There are lots of people selling them on the street. So I think those are super popular. The only problem is they're not a big thing. I think is really important with like a lot of this kind of art is it needs to be super recognizable, and it's something that I don't think I do very well a lot with the images. So without the kind of context from me explaining it in the video, it's difficult to understand what you're looking at. So I think like something like an acorn is very easy to understand. That kind of looks like an acorn. Double check. Yeah, kind of. So it's not so bad. But something like a chestnut, I think, it's not like immediately obvious. So yeah, it definitely needs to be like an obvious nut. So we'll just say an acorn. He doesn't have to explain why he's got an acorn. He's just got an acorn. then maybe we'll do like a just a little chest on the back here. Chest of belongings, or again, it could be something he's bringing somewhere in like a shipping, like shipping it to a city or something. Do it like a wooden crate. And we'll do some more ropes on top. Do like some more lines over here. Nice. Yeah, do some big ropes. Big bow tie on top. It'd be good if it looks kind of mishmash, because obviously there's a lot of weevil. It's not super interested in making it perfect. It's got other concerns, weevil related concerns. That's the most important thing. A giant pear bomb, maybe. I'll never live that down. That damn pear bomb. If it's too peary, but it was also too bomby at one point. Yeah, pears would be good. As like a little pear salesman, perhaps. But we've done an acorn now, and I like the acorn. I think that was a good idea. So we'll stick with the acorn for the time being. And this chest is going to be the same wood as the barrel. So we'll color that one in. I think that's looking pretty cool so far. What do you think? Do you think that looks like he's riding a slug? Maybe if I might do a bit more work on that, the slug line art a little bit better, but I think it's looking okay. Even from a distance, it still looks like a traveling merchant. So I'll do some more like highlights, but I think it's looking okay for now. Acorns are actually edible if you cook them the right way to get rid of the sour taste. I didn't know that. Acorn. Ah, yeah. Maybe we use them in. What do we use them in? Or is that walnut? I'm thinking of walnut. I think. I know you're right. I've definitely heard other people talking about eating acorns, but I mean it's such a recognizable nut, so it was definitely a good choice to do an acorn specifically. Well, yeah, we have that in France too. We call them pignons. Hold on, I need to remember what chestnut is. I can't remember in English. Yeah, chestnut is marron. I think you pronounce it marron. Like, let me double check that. But the edible chestnuts you have in France and that are typical in Spain are not so common in the UK. We just have like the poisonous ones. Chestnuts. Yeah, marron. Marron. I can't pronounce R's in French. So the one with the spiky bit around them, exactly. And then you walk over to them and you put your feet on them to push the shell off, and then you pick up the nut. And there's like normally a few little nuts inside each shell. Yeah, my wife loves them. I do not. Not for me, thank you. This rope the same colour. Is that working? Oh, why isn't that working? Oh, that's right. Oops. I'm going to do highlights on all of these images in a bit. In fact, I'm going to steal this. You come here. Cut. I'll move you over here. Install you just there. Oops. There we go. Give me a mess. Okay, nice. Alright, we'll start working on some highlights. I think he's looking pretty cool. It's a cool little dude. Weevil is definitely a good choice. Let's start with the slug. I want him to look super sluggy. So what we'll do is we'll do some shiny bits on top. Like a yellow colour. Because slugs are sluggy. They're very slimy boys, and therefore we want them to be nice and shiny. So what we'll do is we'll start doing some little like speckled highlights. Maybe just do it in white. Let's start again. Just do it white. And then you can do some little, oops. Not super slimy looking. No, I don't like that. I struggle with the slimy kind of texture. Again, need to practice. If I do that, and then if I do some really speckled highlights. It's super slimy. No, I don't like that. Try again. So maybe it's like any dark recesses as well. Ooh, chestnuts, yeah. We call them castañas here. We cook them on the fire during autumn when they're available. They're really tasty. Yeah, I remember it being like a thing in I'm not sure if you're from where you're from, Daniel, but when I used to live in Barcelona, I've lived in lots of countries. I remember it was a popular thing for like the Catalonians to do as well. It's definitely like a bit of a European thing. Like I said, I think in the UK we probably would do it. It's just the fact that we don't have any. We have a few edible chestnut trees, but I think they're imports as well. So the majority of the chestnuts we have are like inedible. And in fact, what we do is we put a hole in the middle of them. We put a rope through it, and then two people will have chestnuts on a rope, and you take it in turns to try and hit. You swing your rope with your chestnut on it, and try and hit the other person's chestnut. So it's like to try and smash their chestnut essentially. So yeah, I think it's like a very generally what we do in the UK, because it's we're not big fans of eating them, but we're big fans of playing with them for sure. Imagine the amount of jam someone can make from an acceleration strawberry bush. Yeah. Oh damn. Yeah. That'd be really tasty. God, I'm really failing with this sliminess. Right, I'll come back to the sliminess. We don't need to do that right now. Giving up immediately. We'll figure that out after. What we'll do instead is we'll do a screen. We'll start to do some highlights on this guy's clothes. Because highlights are always good. Skin highlights. There's a little stool. There's at the top. Oops. I'll smudge these after, or like reduce the opacity of them or something, just to blend it in a little bit more. But for the time being, I'll just get some highlights going. A bit of like a mixture of colours in there is always nice. So we'll come back to it and worry about colouring it after. What a cool little dude. Yeah, I'm from Spain. Oh, nice. So it's funny. Because I've lived in, well, I guess I've lived in just Spain and France in terms of like European countries. Definitely in terms of like things you guys eat compared to us is very different. In England we get a very bad rep for having terrible food. I think it's just the difference in like obviously food culture and in ingredients as well. I think is a big aspect of it. Obviously, like if you're close to the Mediterranean, you can have all of this wonderful like seafood and stuff. In the UK, we do eat seafood, but it's just not to the same quality, I guess. Not to make excuses for us too much, but it's true. It's true. Let's put some textures on this. It's a nice texture. That's a nice one. With like a sack texture, that could be cool. Oh, where's it gone? We'll do like a darker brown colour. There you go. That's nice. That's kind of sacky. This one, do like a scratchy texture. Got so many brushes. Definitely worth using them. I think I'll do our first smudge one. Nice. And then this canvasy one. It's like a gritty, a dirty canvas. That's kind of cool. And texture makes such a big difference to any image. Nice. And I'll do the same with the barrel. Just move some of this white across. We'll use this to blend. Blend, blend, blend. I'll redo some of the lines on this barrel, I think, because it doesn't look great, but it's kind of woody. And the acorn, let's change. I just thought of something. Cetacean Fae, like dolphins and whales, most like possible. They have the criteria of being mammals and being intelligent. Yeah, we talked about that a while ago in the stream at one point, and it definitely seems to be like a popular idea that I think a lot of people want. So I'm definitely going to try and get to it as soon as possible. The shark I want to work on in a little bit is my kind of way of my negotiation, because I'm still trying to figure out how a whale or a dolphin would work. I guess a dolphin would be just done a similar way to the shark, but the shark was very funny looking, and so I thought it could be a cool one to do. So I'll definitely get to that eventually. But I'm liking this little merchant. He's looking pretty cool. So what we need actually is some shadows. Is it empty? Good tip if any of you guys use Procreate. If you've got an empty, if you're not sure if like something's empty or not, because you can't really tell, just select it and then press select, and it'll say layer empty. So then you can either delete that or just start using that one. Especially if you've got like if you haven't got much space or you haven't got many layers, it can be a good way to just see which layers are actually being used or not. Something I didn't figure out until very recently, so good to pass on the knowledge. Right, let's give this guy some shade. Shadow always makes such a crazy difference. It completely changes an image sometimes, especially in terms of quality. Focus now because I'm enjoying this drawing. I'm glad I decided to do this for the stream, because I don't get bored very easily. Well, that's not true. I do get bored very easily, but especially with drawing, I think if I get super into an image, I will finish it, which I'm super happy about. Especially for these like smaller projects where it's not like a massive image, it's a bit easier to kind of convince myself to get it done. So again, that's what a positive about doing these 2-hour streams is I often finish an image or get it quite far finished, for sure. There's always one bot per stream. It's kind of inevitable at this point. Just delete them as my stream manager. Where are you? Do I delete? Ban. There we go. Nice. Okay, well done. Let's get at least one. People are doing terrible comments each time. I don't really mean to speak for the whole of French people, but I'm pretty sure people don't really like the taste of roast chestnuts. They more like the vibe they go with, like the start of autumn vibe. Do you know what? I completely agree. I feel like there's a lot of food like that, right? In England, we've got a thing called Christmas pudding. Google it if you don't know what it is. It's terrible. It's rubbish. I don't like it. Mince pies as well are like a really common thing in the UK. I don't like them at all, except at Christmas. So I think I completely agree. I think it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, nice, it's autumn. Let's go do this activity, which is picking chestnuts. So yeah, dude, I completely agree. I feel like it's like a fun activity, especially if you've got kids. It's like a fun one to do with your kids, to go out and like to pick it. I only did it one year with my daughter, and she really, well, actually no, she was very young, but it's like a fun one. It's like a fun activity to do, and you can get the whole family involved, and it's like super chill, and then eat a couple of chestnuts after. So yeah, completely agree. You could have the dolphins, whales, orcas, etc. use songs to communicate like they do in real life. The amount of sounds they can do is so complex and diverse. You could have them have palmated hands and feet, live in coast cities, or straight up like some kind of floating city in the ocean. Very cool ideas. First of all, in terms of communication, it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Someone asked it in one of my videos, or maybe it was on the Discord. And I think it's definitely something I need to consider. I was thinking about myself whilst I was walking my dog, and one thing I noted, one thing I was thinking about is the fact that if you have a crab, Faye. Sorry, my brain wasn't working there. So this little crab dude. At least in the English language, for the sounds that we can make, I think if you don't have lips, it would be very difficult to make the p and the b sound, or the p and the b sound. Like p for papa and b for baby, for example. And another sound that would be quite difficult would be the l, like l for Daniel Lopez, for example. So if you don't have a tongue and you don't have lips, then you won't be able to make those sounds. So even if like we're kind of ignoring science a little bit and just allowing these Fae to speak, it'd be cool to kind of consider how it would affect their accent and the way that they speak, because they wouldn't be able to just say everything. They'd have to kind of do it to an extent. And things like I think most mammals don't have lips. I think it's like a very like grey ape thing. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's like, it's true for grey apes, but that's about it. Like foxes and badgers and rabbits and things, I don't think they have lips. They all have tongues, I think. I need to Google these things before I say them, but again, I think that would really affect how they speak in general. So definitely, I think in terms of language, something like, yeah, dolphins and whales using kind of like their echolocation type thing, they're singing, could be a really great way to like highlight that, like their own language. and it was an element of the TTRPG I wanted to explore is like languages. So you'd have like a language called Common, which is the language all the humans speak, and some Fae would speak that too, or like most of them would speak it for the purpose of being able to communicate as a player if you were playing a Fae. But for the Fae, they'd have a few different languages. So there'd be like a mammal language, where most of the mammals would be able to communicate, and it'd be like squeaks and growls. And then you'd have a bird language, which would be a lot of like different sounds, but mostly like whistles and caws and things like that. And then you'd have individual languages, which would be like the language the insects speak, which would be like pheromonal, or the language the bees do, which would be like a little bee dance type thing. Yeah, so lots of things like that. I think language. I think I've said on the previous stream I'm a language teacher, so I think language would be a really cool thing to try and develop as part of the whole project, I think. Yeah, most mammals have lips, but they have like zero mobility in them. They lack the set of musculature in the face we have. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. So it'd be cool if the lipless Fae all have a different language. It could be played with accents and all that. Absolutely. Or maybe it's just like they can speak Common, but like you said, they have a really strong accent because of that. Because there's just certain sounds that they can't pronounce. I was essentially going to make it so that the Fae language is like Scots, like Scots Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic. But I'll see. Again, it's like a work in progress, this TTRPG. So it's definitely something I still need to consider. But I think if I do manage to develop it, I will definitely do a big element on languages, because I think it would just be a cool thing to explore and to consider, for sure. Hey, this guy's pretty cool. It's kind of slimy. I'm gonna try and work on this snail a little bit more, and then I'm gonna jump ahead and start doing some other stuff, I think. But I think he's looking pretty cool. Pretty cool. Maybe if I just do like a few colors. Oh, it's the wrong color. If I try and do a few highlights like this and make it kind of reflective. I do add, and then I blur out. Maybe this will work a bit better. I can use that as like blur. Maybe that'll work. That looks better. There you go. Nice. Okay, that worked out. As opposed to like a bright white, I think this like kind of maybe more like transparent gold. Looks a bit more interesting. Nice. I'm going to reduce this shadow under his eye. It's a bit strong. This one too. So a little bit of shadow. Maybe make a bit underneath a bit darker. Like a slightly different colour, so his eye stands out a little bit more. Actually, I think slugs normally have quite dark eye thingies, so I'll do that instead. Eye stalks. Do it like a darker colour. Darker than that. This looks a bit darker then. In fact, what I might do... Sorry, I'm really in the zone here, so I'm not talking very much, but if I just remove a little bit of his face. Right here. stalks stand out. There you go. Okay, that's much better. I'm happy with that. Let's get rid of a bit more of the shadow. What is that? Right. I'm quite happy with that. He looks like a little dude transporting his stuff. Maybe we can do a little slime trail behind him as well. Be one last little detail. And we'll call him Finito. Because these little slug trails are all over my kitchen in the morning. Bit gross, but important gross, so people know the pain of having slugs in your kitchen. There you go. What do you guys think? Not bad, right? Pretty cool. Sorry, I catch up on what you guys have been saying. The ants could communicate using pheromones, and to write literature they could impregnate pages with a lasting long-term pheromone that could act as writing. That is an awesome idea. Like a perfumed page. That could like express ideas. Man, that's a cool idea. Yeah, because I suppose like you could do so much with pheromones, and like the perfumes they wear could indicate their status, or they could, like, the players could disguise themselves with certain perfumes to help them blend in a bit more with the ants. That's a really cool idea. Ladies and gents, after 20 minutes battling my network connection, I'm back. Welcome back. Yeah, I think it's definitely difficult to watch any kind of stream, I think, as soon as you have connection problems. The isles we focus on could have their own common tongue, and the other continents could have different languages after all civilizations collapsed. Everyone ended up isolated. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly that. I think you'd have these kind of isolationist cities, or these really like isolated places, and again, the language could be quite bizarre, or it could be really developed by the Fae as opposed to like the humans, so it could be more focused on the Fae communicating with everyone as opposed to trying to get what the humans are saying. But I think that's an awesome idea. Yeah. So it wouldn't be weird for everyone to develop their own language. After all, has been isolated from the god for God knows how long. Exactly. Yeah. Because that's it. It's like the how long is, no one's really sure how long people have been isolated for, and therefore there'll almost definitely be enough time for everyone to develop their own languages. That's a cool idea. I like it a lot. Me too. Oh, you like it a lot. Sorry, I don't know if you're talking about Daniel's idea or the slug rider, but Daniel's idea is awesome. I think that's a really cool idea. Okay, let's jump into the next one. I would like to work on the shark, because I think this little shark maid is a pretty cool dude. So the species of shark I want to use for this is UK shark species is it's like a little cute dude. It's like a really short face. It's not a thresher shark, is it? Short fin. Common thresher shark, that's the one. Like very big dudes, but they're very cute. Common thresher shark. Got a funny little face. So I'm going to do this one. Add them to the ref page. The slug, I haven't read Daniel's message yet, but I really like that idea too. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that slug. I think he's looking pretty cool. So let's jump into this next one. So yeah, this is the idea with this one is it's going to be a little housemaid who's working in the kitchen, so the back of the house. and she is the cook. And as a WyrdFolk, it's kind of one of the only jobs she can get in her little settlement. And she lives back there and just does the cooking and cleaning, and doesn't have to deal with anyone being scared of her. So maybe the lord or lady of the house is kind of like doesn't dislike WyrdFolk. They're like educated and they understand that they're not the cause for problems in town, whereas everyone else mistrusts them, and as soon as there's a blight, they're like, oh, it's the WyrdFolk's fault type thing, and they're most likely to be persecuted or attacked or bullied or taken advantage of, just because, again, they're kind of on their own. And the thing with WyrdFolk as well is it's not just like scary animals, but it's also animals which are less common as Fae. So again, they're super isolated. Like the Weevil dude is probably maybe one of the only Weevil Fae in the whole of the Albion Isles. So again, in terms of like isolation, where you have like the mammals together and the humans together and things like that, they would definitely be on their own to an extent. So this like shark Fae is living in the house of a sympathizer, we'd say. Cool. I'm just gonna have a cute little shark face because these sharks have big eyes. Problem is, they have very dilated pupils, and of course, a dilated pupil is the sign of a troll. So maybe that would be another reason why perhaps some people are suspicious of certain animals. It's just they look weird, and people just presume they're trolls. Unfortunately for them. It's got a little shocked mouth. Such a cool dude. This one's not going to have a tail. It's one thing I was going to do actually for the video is do like a diagram of how animals evolve, using the seal picture we did in one of the previous streams, and talk about how WyrdFolk are also not just scary animals or uncommon animals, but also animals that haven't evolved correctly or haven't evolved fully. So it'd be thing like a seal Fae that still has its tail, and so it'd just be like walking around town knocking stuff over and being judged by people in the town. But yeah, I think it would be like a real variety of animals. So it's like a very generalized term. I had a question, even if it's nothing like the WyrdFolk. Would you say Fae as a whole are subject to discrimination? Yes, absolutely. It's the kind of subject that's been done to death, I think, in literature. But it's a whole thing about, okay, you have two species, and obviously the humans are against the new species because they're not a human type thing. And yeah, that's going to be a big element of the story, essentially. It's just the humans' rejection of Fae in some extent. But then in some cities, they're kind of celebrated and they're very useful because imagine, like dog Fae being really great guards and bodyguards, and rabbit Fae being great scouts and things like that. So the societies that take advantage of their skills to make things better exist, but to the greater extent, most Fae are discriminated against. One thing I want to do as well is do something about trappers. So it would be humans who specifically hunt Fae to kill them and to take their fur and to eat them and things like that. So there's like this really horrible group, and so they would obviously be a really extreme group of humans who are just very anti-Fae. And then on the other side, you also have human discrimination, where the Fae mistrust them and they know how violent humans are, and again the typical kind of story. But then you have this like queen of the Fae who's also a human, but a human dragon, who one of the stories I will eventually do, spoilers, is she's going to be trying to convince like the two factions to be kind of harmonious, and eventually she's going to come across the trappers and see what they do to Faye, and it's going to drive her quite insane. So we'll see where that storyline goes. That's like a concept for the moment, but yes, they absolutely are discriminated against for sure. What kind of shark is she? I'm asking because depending on the species, they have some cute traits. She is a great, what's it called? A common thresher shark. I'll put it in the chat. Common thresher shark. So they have like a little weird mouth. They kind of like got a little bit of an open mouth. They're very cute. They've got these huge tails, and essentially they slap fish in the face to like stun them, and then they eat them afterwards. But they're very cool animals. Okay, I think they can get really big as well. Very cute. I need to look up a 17th century maid, and we'll give her typical maid clothes. I've been like very relaxed with okay, these are like European maid clothes, or like these are European servant clothes. I haven't really been sticking to the British Isles as much as I possibly could, but I think it's fine in that capacity. Still works because it has that kind of vibe, I guess, of that time period. So it still works quite well. This one's got kind of like a leather vest piece. I guess holds down the skirt. And what I was thinking is like different elements of different fae. So, for example, like a shark fae might still have a fin. So how would she utilize the fin in terms of fashion, or perhaps like religious considerations, something like that. So, because in the giants video, I introduced like the Corvid dragon, Corvus, who's like long dead but still worshipped by a bunch of the giants, and so a lot of their worshippers wear these like wooden, like burnt necklaces. So it's like this black feather which they wear as like a necklace around their necks, just to show that they worship Corvus, and also they reject Pretech. So I want to do some similar things like that. So I was thinking maybe I could do something for the Church of the Deep for this one. I'm not quite sure what it could be. In fact, oh, actually, yeah, I could just give her the typical hat. Yeah, why not? So she's like a worshipper. Yeah, let's do that. In fact, I'll just adapt her hat here. Perhaps show she's a worshipper. Nice. And it's got the eye as well. And that kind of blends in with the, there's like a cap. And then she's got like a kind of white cloth that sits underneath the cap. A frilly cloth, perhaps. Nice. That's okay. And we'll do that kind of white. That's quite cool. And do like a barrel. Yeah, not too bad. I thought it was Russia because of the eye size and mouth, but I want to make sure. The maid deserves some nose boops and extra rations on the sardines. I agree. Very cute. It's one thing I want to figure out how to do as well is display emotions on a lot of these creatures' faces, because obviously they don't have the musculature to kind of express themselves, but maybe just from their facial expressions I could exaggerate them slightly, or try and figure out a way to develop their look a little bit more. By the way, some shark species have been recorded enjoying scratches from divers they trust, and it's really cute. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that with like stingray. You can get with like moray eels. I think some kinds of white sharks. Again, I think it's a bit like how you have those cleaning platforms with the, I can't remember what they're called, the little fish that swim inside their teeth and eat like the parasites and things like that off their body. I'd imagine they would just associate certain shapes and certain locations with just getting scritches. So yeah, I think it makes sense, right? So it's cool to have these like kind of interactions. I'm not sure I would be able to fully trust a shark though, even if it's like a nice shark, like a nurse shark or something. Always good to be cautious with wild animals, I guess. Alright, I've got some reference images I'm looking through to help me with these. In fact, you know what? I was going to do her... I'm going to erase this. I'm going to do her like dropping some veggies into the pot, because I want to give her lots of frilly skirts. Because the skirts, the outfits these maids wore in this time period are pretty cool. So I want to show them, try and draw them best I can. That's splashing. There we go. And zoom again. And then we'll do a nice big rim like that. Nice. It's a bit of a wonky barrel. Let's try that again. Much bigger. There you go. That looks like more of a cauldron, doesn't it? This one. Got a nice one here. It looks quite. That's quite Dutch. But again, the Dutch have so many paintings from this time period. I think there was a lot of like the Dutch masters painting like normal life. But it just means you have loads of references to their like the costumes and everything of the time. So good place to find references in the Netherlands. Some frilly sleeves as well. Once I get some colour on this, it'll be a bit easier, but let's try it for now. You can use body language for that if it helps. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Just to maybe try and use their body language or their the action or something to show their emotion. I need to get a bit better at that, like facial expressions and stuff. I can do on humans. But even like body language on humans, I don't think I draw very well. So definitely something I could practice a little bit more. Right, let's get some colour on this. So I like the colour on this one. So they've got like a... In fact, I'll paint the whole thing first. And then I'll worry about the colour after. I can get rid of the background now. Like I want to do a bit more of this like costume design type thing. Some of my favorite artists, like the guy who does Kill 6 Billion Demons, is clearly into fashion, or like must have done like fashion design at university or like studied it or something, because they're really really good at costumes and little equipment and things like that. I don't know if it's just the influence from their like where they get their influences from, but they're great. They're so good at it, and obviously they've worked very hard to get to that point. But again, I think it comes from an interest of clothes, and I'm not a very fashionable person, to be honest, and therefore I don't think it reflects in a lot of my art. A lot of my clothing is very simple, so it's definitely something I want to improve in a bit more, as well as like landscapes and some of the other things for sure. There's even a case recorded of a shark getting jealous that a diver was giving scratches to the shark, so she chased the other shark out of the place and came back for scratches. That's very cute. This is like a dominant thing. I don't know if sharks have like what kind of social system they have in place, other than biggest is better. Bigger is better. Do this. So we've got a bit of colour to work with. Okay. Okay. Nice. So we'll get this black, or this like black blue, onto the pot. To start with, I'll do the soup after the stew. And food. That's another thing. There's so many things I want to work on. Food is a really big one that I want to get better at. Like everyone else who's into art, Studio Ghibli is like a great point of reference. I mean, anime art in general is like a good point of reference for beautiful food. So it's something I would like to improve in a lot, for sure. But again, it's just a lot of work. It's like, obviously they've put in so many hours to just make this like perfect examples of food. It just takes practice, I guess. But yeah, definitely something I need to work on a little bit more. For sure. Very frilly. She's got this kind of skirt. She's like a bit of an apron. Oops. And the apron has a lot of stripes on it. Oops. In fact, I should do the shark skin a little bit. See, sharks have that very reflective colour. They're a little bit white under the nose. Do we do a bit of a lesser grey? And then a kind of silvery blue on top. And then a silvery whiter colour around the eye. There as well. And what colour was this? It's got like a satin blue. Oops. The red frills come out the back. And she's got like a blue, a baby blue stripes. grey in there. To make this a bit frillier. Nice. Kind of cool. Yeah, I definitely need a bit more practice at this costume design, but I think it's quite nice. Not bad. It's kind of these like natural folds, which I always find quite difficult. Honestly, different Fae folk have different preferred dishes. A way of cooking could be a cool thing. It's also a way to show cultural traits of the species and their locations. Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. I would say, however, for example, with this Fae, she is a cook. She's a cook for a house. So the reality is she should be cooking for whoever is her master. So I would say, yeah, like I think a lot of rabbit Fae and like herbivores would enjoy soup, and they would enjoy like cooked vegetables or salads, things like that. So they'd be cooking and actually doing stuff with their food. But and whereas like predators like foxes or omnivores like badgers, for example, would eat more. So they would eat things like steak or like cooked chicken or like stews and meatier dishes. So yes, definitely, I think that needs to be an important consideration. It's just like the kind of food culture of a lot of these creatures, for sure. Shark skin is quite reflective, so we'll do a bit of a shine on this one. Reduce it a little bit, but kind of silky skin. Actually, no, I don't want to do that because that's just has to be separate from like the reflected side. We'll do this one as just like a lesser highlight. Like that. That's better. We'll do like a normal smudge. Reduce it a little bit. Very minor highlight. Again for this blue. And even the black will get a little bit of a highlight. We'll do a blue highlight. Nope, if it works. Nope, it doesn't work. Just not showing up. Okay, never mind. Does it work on there? No. Okay. And then the pot. Nice shiny kettle. It's also a way. I can see rabbits and other herbivores enjoying veggie stew. Yeah, exactly. I can also see frogs and other eating insects. Yeah, insect-eating animals enjoying some kind of protein mush made of insects. Yeah, you're right. Like amphibians is a really good thing to consider, I guess, in terms of like diet, because I guess it would make quite a significant difference, in fact, like how they would eat compared to everybody else. It'd be quite an important one because it would be so different. I think I'm not sure. I think frogs are like omnivores. Maybe not in the UK. No, I think they're just carnivores, right? They just eat insects. But I wonder if they would eat like, would they eat meat, perhaps? Would that be like something a frog would eat? So like a frog fae would enjoy a nice meaty stew. Right, I'm rubbish at metal reflection. I need to look at a reference. Cooking pot. 17th century. Let's have a look, instead of just making it up. Okay, so they got kind of like a speckled texture over the top. So I do. Have I got anything that will work for that? Maybe this one. It could work actually. If I do that, but if I do it as like a grey colour, I'll just erase everything. If you have that phobia of like dots, I would say look away now. Not the most efficient way to do this, but it should work. And then if we change that to I like the variation in colour there. If we desaturate it, perhaps. Yeah, nice. Okay, that looks quite cool. And if we do a bumpy line, a bit more of a bumpy line like this. It's not like a. So it's like an even pot. I think that'll look a bit cooler. Nice. Okay, I think that's immediately better. But then what I need to do is do the same, but with the highlights. So I need that'll be a bit more difficult. Sorry, I had to go for a drink. What do you say about the frogs? Sorry, yeah. So I was just saying that's a really great thing to consider, because I think in comparison with all the other animals, I think that would be quite an important one. Is like considering what the frogs would eat, because those would be quite different. And I'm not sure if like frogs are just pure carnivores, or if they if in terms of like with insects, or if they actually eat mice and things like that. Could be an interesting thing to consider, because if they did, then maybe they would like something like rabbit stew, Not liking this look. I do have a reference image here, like a very old burnt pot. Oh, maybe that's better actually. It's less of it. It's not such a strong highlight. Let me get rid of this. So they've done it. They've done it kind of in a less obvious way. Maybe if I do it like I did before with the slug, I'll just do it as like a bit more subtle. On top as well. So yeah, like you were saying, like I think food culture would be a super important thing to share, and I think that would be kind of the advantage of doing just a general art book, as opposed to like a TTRPG. Is I could explore more ideas, and I think it'd be perhaps a bit more fun. It just looks dirty, doesn't it? Could work. I could explore a few more ideas, and try to really come up with like some cultural aspects. And it's like a book that I've recommended a few times on stream. There's one called Guelph, and it's just a perfect example of the book I want to make. It's just like a culture book about like a tourist guide to visiting this fantastical city, essentially in North America, in like the Canadian wilderness, that is like magical, and it's a bit of like a silly book. Oh, that looks much better. Nice. But I think a really important thing with that is it's really nice, and it's like kind of whimsical, and it's like very well drawn, but at the same time he's really thought about the cultural aspects and the different species and different things for the book. It's not just like it's not like he's done it really quickly. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I think you would especially enjoy that, Daniel, and you everyone else in the chat. It's like a really cool thing that he's obviously drawn up and it's like developed. It's called Guelph. I mentioned it a bunch of times, but it's definitely one worth reading. Frogs usually eat insects, but some frog species also eat things like mice, other frogs, etc. I can see frog fade diet consisting of insect porridge and small critters caught in traps like mice, rats. Especially something like a rat species adapted to a life on the swamps could be a good food source for them. Yeah, great. Or like fish, like a small species of fish. You could see them like fishing, or it could be like what else? It could be just like small animals, small birds, perhaps that they catch in traps. Definitely, I think it'd be like a cool one to do, and like it's a really typical like whimsical image of like a frog fishing by the river. In England, we've got a lot of these kind of old books. I don't know if you have the same if you've read the same, but like Toad of Toad Hall. I think a lot of that is just him fishing in the countryside and with his mates. So yeah, definitely, I think could make for some cool images, but definitely worth talking about the diet. I might just do it as like a whole video in the future, the various diets of different species. And again, it would give me that opportunity to kind of practice drawing dishes, which could be quite fun. Definitely a good one to consider. Do kind of like a rich stew, so do like a various colours. Do it kind of coming out. Do a bit of dark colours here, and then some highlights on top. I need to colour in these little. I'll just erase this food here. Oops. In fact, we can get rid of a lot of that. I'll do some little sploshes of big bits of something. I'll do carrots. I need to colour that in. Oops. Where's that? Oh, I see. Do that here. Looks like carrots, right? Probably. Yeah, fish is also a good option. Maybe some freshwater mollusks and shrimp. That's a great idea. Yeah, like some mussels or some different types of freshwater shellfish, that kind of thing. Lots of good ideas today, Daniel. I think really appreciate your help and brainstorming this stuff. I enjoy thinking it up, but it's that typical thing of just, when you work with other people on an idea, it's always better because other people will just have different ideas and will help you to develop a lot more. So I think you've had some really awesome ideas today. Very good stuff. I'm liking this little shark made. One thing I do want to start doing with some of my images, actually, that I see a lot of other YouTubers doing, is they do kind of a dirty background. So they'll have something like this, and then they will do, what's a good brush? Have like a kind of blotchy color. Oops. Need a better brush than that. And they do kind of like a dirty background like that. I think it looks cool. In fact, we'll just do another one over the top. A bit more chill. And then do that as like a... to kind of reduce it a bit. And then do our shadows as well. For example, African bullfrogs eat insects, small rodents, reptiles, small birds, fish, and other amphibians. Fey frogs aren't bullfrogs, but with how big they are, I can see them having a varied diet. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like they would be opportunistic carnivores for sure. Like just given the opportunity to kind of eat what they like, and with them being so like militant and always on the field and always on the go, I feel like they would be very good like hunters, and they'd have to like get enough food for the war camp and things like that. So definitely an important aspect of their culture would be having enough food to kind of support everyone in the field. So yes, yeah, I completely agree. I already feel like that's going to be a cool video for sure. I like this. She's like, so she's a member of the Church of the Deep. So she's got her like little religious hat that she wears even during work. She wears it on her all the time. With the last image, did I do a blue shadow or a black shadow? I think I did a black one, didn't I? Oh no, it's blue. In fact, let me just copy this. Right, so I might try and do the same kind of background to see what it looks like on this guy. It's a bit more chill than that. Oops. See how that looks. What do you think, Daniel, or anyone else who's in the stream? I think the black background kind of adds to it, or is it kind of the detailed background? Or do we prefer the white? It makes it a bit more interesting. Because a lot of my images are just on these white backgrounds. Just add a little bit to it. I quite like it. Okay, let's keep working on these shadows. Pop. Is that a mod? Oh, it's not a multiply layer, that's why. That's the wrong smudge tool. Nice. I like this. She's like a little bit creepy, but yeah, kind of cute at the same time. This will make her cuter. There we go. shiny scales. Maybe a bit of a reflection in the water here as well. So we'll do this one yellow. We'll do this kind of like orangey colour. That'll look a bit better. No, that's a bit too much. Let's do a little bit, just like reflecting off the surface of the liquid. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a highlight at the top here. I like her. Pretty cool. I like it. It's looking cool. I like the trail of the slug slime. Thanks. It's nice detail. I really like the messy background. Thanks, Rondix. I agree. I think that does make a big difference, right? If I just group them together, I'll have a look. Yeah, for sure. Because she immediately stands out more, for one, and I think it just adds like a kind of element to it. Oh, I did it with this guy. Oh, maybe I was thinking about this before. I do need to be quite consistent with the color. I think that's important. Because like they would need to stand next to each other quite well. So maybe if I get rid of that, copy this, and we'll do a little doop, and then we'll do a dark color, doop, and we'll have them as the kind of standard. There you go. 60, maybe 50 is better. I think 50 is good. That was a bit white there. And it kind of helps me highlight some of the bits that stand out a bit too much. Where's that highlight coming from? Oops. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that works. This is quite a different color actually. So oops. So if I'll do that again. What I'll do is I'll down to 50, and then we'll do with the other color, and we'll use this one and just do some big and then I'll do normal, but then if we just reduce it to like 20. So we just do the standard as like 50 and 20. That works quite well, right? Not bad. 100% better than full white. I completely agree. I think that works because it's like, again, better silhouette, and it helps it to stand out a bit more, and it's just a bit more interesting. Probably look nicer in the videos as well. Nice. Okay, so I think that's pretty efficient. Oh gosh, it's 20 to 11. So two images done from scratch, other than the initial pencil drawing. But I think both of them quite nice characters for the WyrdFolk video. I think I need to do a few more. I've got a few more ideas for it. But I think in terms of the level of detail is kind of what I wanted. So lots of detail there. And she's got quite a period costume, so I think that's quite nice. I'm quite happy with the pot as well. The pot came out quite well. Using a reference image, that always helps. I could do a little bit more detail on the stick. That's not such a big deal. And then the element of the religious headgear, I think makes a big difference as well, because it kind of adds to the story of this like sea creature Fae, who's obviously part of that church. So pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And again, that's quite whimsical and quite fun. Something I wonder is if with the acceleration, new species of edible veggies evolved in the wild, and how invasive plants adapted to the acceleration. Great question. It's something I want to do as well. In my garden, for example, we have bindweed, and it's this plant that's like stretches out like a tentacle, and it reaches other plants and it wraps itself around and it climbs as high as possible and then produces these really big white flowers, and it's everywhere in the UK. I don't think it's invasive, but it's like really problematic, and it's very difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I think it's definitely things like that I would like to do. Big bramble bushes, loads of different things that I think could be a really great way of showing the flora as well as the fauna and how it's adapted. But definitely something I wanna look into a bit more. Right, well, I think I'll finish up there. Thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate you guys being here for the whole stream. It's been great chatting with you, and like I said, really great ideas throughout. Definitely things I'm going to be considering. Like we said, in terms of the diets of the animals, and what else did we talk about? That was a cool idea. Oh yeah, like the storyline with the ants. I think were really cool, and the pheromones and that kind of thing. And what else do we talk about? Yeah, so different foods that everyone would eat. Loads of really cool ideas. So I definitely think I'm going to try and work on those perhaps in a future video. In fact, I'm going to write that down because I've got a list next to me of stuff I want to do. I'll write down food video for sure. The ant video is already up there on the list, but food video I think is a big one. Like here in Spain we have an invasive plant species that's a tuber like the potatoes but isn't related to them. It's edible but it's wreaking havoc on the ecosystem. So that's a great example. Like some of these really horrible plants. Japanese knotweed is a big one in the UK, which again is similar to our bindweed. Just wraps around everything and strangles it and kills it. So yeah, invasive species definitely would be a cool one. Right, well I think I'm gonna get off there, guys. Again, really appreciate you guys being here. That was such an efficient stream. I think I made a lot of progress, definitely in terms of character art, but as well as like I'm really happy with those two pieces. They're nice and they're like cool characters, I think, which will fit really well in a video. And like yeah, I'm really happy with their design. But I appreciate you guys being here and helping me work through it. The next video should be out hopefully tomorrow. It's going to be a short actually, so it's not going to be like a full video. It's going to be like a 1 minute short, which I'll put on YouTube Shorts. And it was the one we were working on last week, the little animated one about the rabbit fae and the troll who becomes a troll. So I'd say look out for that one. But Daniel, I don't know if you're in the Discord yet. I'm not sure. Unless you've got a different username on there. But I would say, if you want to stop by or jump in, there's lots of other guys in there and chatting about their projects and stuff if you're interested. Throndix is in there as well, but so you'll be able to see some of his art as well, and there's a bunch of other dudes in there as well. So it's a cool place to kind of hang out and chat. It's up to you. And again, if there's any changes to the stream and things like that. Nice. Okay, cool. Thanks. I really appreciate that. I'll send you the link now. It's like I said, it's just a good way to stay in contact with people as well. My nightmare is that I end up losing my YouTube account and I lose all the people I've been talking to. I'll just put it in the chat. There you go. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you both being here, Throndix and Daniel, and I'll see you guys in the Discord or next week. I'll be on the same time, 8:30 UK time. So cheers again, guys. Have a good night, and yeah, I'm probably gonna post my progress on my banner too. Yeah, absolutely. Drop it in there, and I'd love to see it for sure. See how you're working on it. It's always good to see how other people do their banners, because I'm always conscious that mine's not done correctly. But yeah, drop it in there once it's done, and I'll see you guys next time or in the Discord. Cheers, guys. Really appreciate it again. See you guys next time.